So, welcome to chapter 9, and in this chapter we are going to meet the last nominal case that we're missing. After this, there are no more productive nominal cases in Mari. So that's a big step that we're taking, but we're also going to start venturing further into the verbal paradigm, which is where the fun really begins in Mari. Okay, and we're going to start with the verbal paradigm, and that is that we're going to start looking now at our first converb or gerund. These two terms, converb and gerund, you can consider them roughly equivalent to one another. Gerund is the term that has been traditionally used in Uralic studies for such forms, or like translations in various languages, and converb is more the term used in Turkic studies and in general typology or whatnot, where basically we're talking about non-finite verbal forms that are primarily used adverbially. And in Russian literature, you're going to find these marked as indicated as deprichastie. And the most widely used converb in Mari is the converb in N. It's in the grammars you will often find it labeled as the affirmative instructive gerund or something like that. Affirmative in that it's not negated. There is a negative counterpart to this, which we will meet relatively soon. Instructive, its usage is comparable to instructive adverbial forms of nouns or of adjectives, where we have already met a few. And it has the endings in the first conjugation and in the second conjugation, with a little twist that we are going to meet at some point. Okay, let's see if we can form them once. The formation of these, the formation is not really the difficult thing. The thing is difficult is exaggerating. The interesting things about these converbs are basically the range of usages in which you find them. Okay, but let's try to form them, and let's start in the first conjugation. Although I say with the verbism, I haven't put the translations here. That's very mean of me. I'm going to say the translations then. Ludash, to read, Gopal.
Luden.
Yep. Kochkash, to eat, Sonia.
Kochkan.
Yep. Kolishtash, to listen, Valentina.
Kolishten.
Yeah. Then Tolash, to come, Kelvin.
Tolan.
Tolan. Then Liash, to be, to become, Sandra. Lian, yep. And here again, it looks, that's the usual thing. By now we're used to it. It looks highly irregular, but it's all adhering to the rules of Mari orthography. The irregularity is just caused by the orthography. But now comes something that is actually a bit irregular. And so, Luan, what would you make? How would you produce the productive form of yamdalaltash to prepare oneself to get ready?
I guess it's yamdulalt without the ending.
Yes, both is possible. That you can have yamdalalten or you can have yamdalalt. That after polysyllabic stems, especially those that contain a derivational suffix, you can drop the n at the end, and you can just have a short form yamdalalt, and often this is actually done. So this is then something that you have to remember, that after very long stems, and especially derived stems, the n becomes optional. There are some variants here, like with kolashtash, this is also derived from kolash, to hear. And here you can also drop the n, but it happens considerably less commonly so than here, would be my gut feeling. I should check this with the corpus before I really commit myself. Okay, in the second conjugation, there's absolutely nothing irregular. There it is always n attached to the stem, deleting final unstressed vowels. So Yoshkargash, to turn red, Samo.
Yoshkargen.
Yoshkargen. Shulash, to melt, Sophus. Shulen, yep. Ertash, to go through, to pass, Reka.
Erten.
Erten, yep. Then ilash, to live, Gopal,
Ilen,
puash, to give, Sonia,
Puen.
and here again, now we have the backwards A appearing in orthography, but that's just orthography doing its thing. And then the last one, kanaltash, to relax, Valentina,
Kanal 10.
Kanal 10. And here you can see that if you have an alt in a second conjugation verb, this is also a derivational suffix. In the second conjugation, the N does not become optional. You still have to use it. Okay, so formation, this is all there is to it. And a spoiler that for something that's coming in a few weeks, this converb is also extremely good and useful to know these, because one of the past tense forms of Mari is grammaticalized on the basis of this converb. And in the third person singular, it is equal to this converb. So you're going to be using these forms a lot. Okay. Oops. I need to work on these slides that doesn't happen. So I mentioned already that we already have had instructive forms in N before in earlier chapters, and these are actually, it's etymologically, it's all the same thing. So we've had sai, good, derived from that sayen, well. We've had yol, foot, derived from that yolen, on foot. We have kumut, 3, derived from that kumuten, a collective numeral, as 3, like in German zu dritt, and most of you will know languages that have collective numerals. And then from kochk, to eat, kochken, eating. And there is a debate among etymologists on if this is cognate with the genitive forms in N. Because throughout the language family, you find genitive forms in N and you find instructive forms with N. And I'm not gonna pretend to know the definitive answer, but a very popular view nowadays is that they are cognate if you go far enough back, but that the instructive forms, that these are based on like what was the forms of a shared suffix that was used on a verbal stem, and that the genitive ones are based on the forms that were used on nominal stems. Because indeed, instructive N on verbal stems seems to be a bit more common even than on nominal stems in Uralic languages. Like those of you that know Finnish will know instructive non-finite forms in N too. Okay. Oops. So about the usage. So this is a very versatile converb. There are a lot of situations in which you can use it. The easiest, I would say, is the adverbial one, that you can just use it as a free adverbial of some sort, where you can say like Anush kujen tolesh, Anush is coming running. How is Anush coming running? Or momte ishteda, what are you doing? Kochkin shinchina, we are sitting and eating. So it's like literally it is we are sitting eating. Like how are we sitting eating? So often enough there it's easy enough to translate, but one thing to keep in mind is how Mari likes its non-finite forms. So often it will use these, it will have almost like whole clauses tied up into a free adverbial like this that are then modifying the subordinate clause. Like here, bibliotekische Kniga am Nalen, taking a book in the library, I go home. So one question that here immediately comes up is, how do we know if we have, like here it is, taking the book in the library, I go home, it means I took the book and then I went home. These were two subsequent actions. Whereas here, if I say to Tishte Momishtet, what are you doing here? Tuyim Vuchen Shinchem, I'm sitting here waiting for you. Hey, that works in English too. Here, these are two simultaneous actions. While I am sitting here, I am also waiting for you. And how do I know which one it is? How do I know if something, if a converb that is expressing something that is in some kind of temporal relation with a superordinate verb, how do I know if they are simultaneous things or if they are subsequent things? And basically, you can derive this from the telicity of the verb that is expressed with it. Telicity is if a verb is expressing a status or a transformation of some sort. And if it is telic, if it is expressing a transformation, a change in status of some sort, then the natural reading of it would be of subsequent actions. And this you have with like taking or whatnot. But if it is atelic, like expressing just a status like waiting or so, then you would more express simultaneous actions. And this is a phenomenon that you can encounter cross-linguistically quite a lot, that basically telicity is not compatible with simultaneity. You see this in Slavic languages, for example, where you have this fairly nice distinction between perfective and perfective and non-perfective verbs, like or in the German we say vollendet, nicht vollendet, so wahrscheinlich, nicht so wahrscheinlich. So there's like a very sharp spectral distinction. And whereas the imperfective verbs have 3 temporal forms in Russian, past, present, future, the perfective ones only have past and future forms, and the morphological present tense forms have a future meaning, because just the simple perfectivity of an action makes it incompatible with it happening right now at the moment of speech. If it was happening right now at the moment of speech, I would be using the imperfective aspect. So yeah, this is something we're going to encounter this phenomenon again in Mari 2. Okay, point 2. This is a bit surprising if you're coming from Western European languages, but not at all surprising if you're coming from Turkic languages. And not at all difficult once you get used to it, is that the modal auxiliaries expressing ability and capability co-occur with the converb. Like kert, the stem kert, to be able. This is inflected in all 6 persons. I can, you can, etc. And this occurs with the converb and not with the infinitive. And this is just something that we have to learn as a rule. It's like muitolen kertam, I can come. It's like literally I can coming. And the negation just the same, muitolen omkert. Okay, I see in the chat that Luan asked, I also came across a short form of to name and to name. Why is this? This is because tunemash, to learn, historically this is a derived verb. That because I mean we have tunemash and tunektash, to learn and to teach. And both of these are derived by derivational suffixes, and one of them is a sort of transitive derivational suffix, this m, which we have, for example, we have it is still used, it's still productive, and we have it, for example, like in sai, good, sayemash, to become better, to be improved. And the kt that we have in tunektash, that's a causative suffix that we also have everywhere, like ishtash, to do, ishtiktash, to make somebody do something. So with tunemash and tunektash, it's interesting that we have these 2 derived verbs where the stem itself is no longer used. There is no verb to, there's no noun tun in Mari, there's no verb tunem, no verb tunash or anything like that. But in spite of this original form no longer being used, the 2 derived forms still behaved like they are derived words. And tunemash, it behaves like a derived verb in this sense. And you have then thus the short converbial form tunem instead of tunemen. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, usage with modal auxiliaries, one needs to get used to it, but it is predictable, and it is systematic. Okay, but now we're starting to venture into the cool stuff, and here I have to pay attention that I don't go overboard with my blabbering here, because this is literally the topic of my dissertation. The structures that we are looking at now. So I'll try to keep it brief. But okay, so one place where we use these converbs is in the verbalization of motion events. And let's imagine a scenario where you see this squirrel that is sitting by a tree, and suddenly this happens. And if I was speaking English, I would just say the squirrel jumped up the tree. So the verb that I use in this pairing is expressing the manner in which the action was carried out. Jumping, it jumped up the tree. It didn't climb up it or crawl up it or fly up it or swim up it or whatnot. And the directionality of this movement I express with the up, with this little preposition, adverbial particle, whatever the hell we want to call it. In theory, there would be another way how I could express it in English. No native speaker of English would ever do this, but the possibility is there. Theoretically, you could say that the squirrel ascended the tree jumpingly. Because we have this verb ascend, which marks a movement from low somewhere, up somewhere, but it doesn't say anything about how the action was carried out. And then we could, like with a non-finite form, express the path, the directionality of this movement. And this completely absurd option I chose for English here. In Mari, this is the normal way of doing things. And in Turkic language, this is the normal way of doing things. And also in Romance languages, a lot of Romance languages do this too. And this is why the verbs that you have in English that mark a directionality of a movement, but not how it is carried out. These are always loans from Romance languages in English: ascend, descend, enter, exit, and the such. So in Mari, the scenario that we watched here would be ur, pushenge, umbake, tersten, kusa. Now I'm doing it in the present tense. So scroll, tree, onto, jumping, climbed. Oh, okay. So it's, you have then the squirrel jumps up the tree is what it says. So the converbial part of this pairing expresses how something is the manner: swimming, climbing, crawling, whatever. And then this part, the kusa, this just marks the directionality of it, that it is up. But then we have other verbs for it being down, across, etc., for all the directionalities you can imagine. So this is the one big thing that like a big group of pairings of converbs and superordinate verbs that you will find is the verbalization of motion events. Yeah, I'm not actually curious. Like Samo, Gopal, do any of the Indian languages? How do Indian languages do this?
Yeah, in Indo-Aryan languages, at least you would do it this way. Like in Bengali, I would pretty much say the same.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Like all of Dravidian, I'm pretty sure would do the exact same thing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Well, this is a case where there's a classical thing where you find, like in international reference languages, that Uralic languages are satellite framed, which is to say that they do it like English does it. And what is it based on? What is this assertion that Uralic languages are satellite framed based on? And like, if you look in the sources, you find this assertion often with no source cited. And it seems to be that somebody just looked at Finnish, Estonian, Hungarian, and those three are satellite framed. So that means Uralic is satellite framed. Well, to be fair, it is more common for Uralic languages to be satellite framed, but those that have been under extensive contact with Turkic languages aren't.
Mm.
Okay. So this is one of the big let's say the odd groups, and none of which are odd if you know any Turkic languages. Let's look at the second odd group, and that is, so now the squirrel meets a baby elephant up on the tree, and the squirrel falls in love with the elephant. And how would we express this in Mari? Well, in English, we would just use a different lexical item to fall in love, derived from the verb love, which itself denotes a status. That's an atalic verb again. And we have this on this sort of like a non-productive, non-predictable lexical derivation, or like a phrase based on it to make something transformative out of this. Well, Mari does something different. Mari says, the squirrel, the elephant, loving placed. So what's up with this? Loving place for falling in love. Well, let's imagine here's a bottle that I have. And I know if I place the bottle on the table in front of me, there's nothing here now. I put the bottle there. Now there's a bottle here. I've changed the status of the circumstances here in the room. And now we compare loving and falling in love. Loving is a status verb. Also in Mari, we have yaratash, just expressing a status. if we take, say, loving place, what we're doing is that we are taking this sort of the structuring of the event and of the circumstances from this to place verb that we are looking at, and we are transferring it to the semantic core of love in this say. So it's like loving, but it is something transformative where we take something that wasn't there before, we put it there, now it is there, the circumstances have changed. So basically in these pairings, you have the first one, the converb, always expresses the semantic core of it, what we are actually looking at here. And the second one transfers a so-called Aktionsart, like something about the verbal, like the structuring of the event. For the time being, for learners, I would say the most important thing at this point is that you are aware of these structures and don't always try to literally translate every pairing of a converb and a superordinate verb that you encounter, because often you would end up having nonsensical results. And I know from a Mari literary circle in Vienna, that students, as they are learning Mari, they will often do literal translations of these Aktionsart pairings and have somewhat nonsensical results here. And so for the time being, it's good just to be aware of this and to compensate for this when you are reading. As we progress in this course, if we get once we get past chapter 25 or so, then we're going to start looking at the individual modifiers that are used in these things. Like, how is the verb to place used in these pairings? How is the verb to send used in these pairings, etc., etc. Yeah, and there is a third aspect that is not in the textbook, but that I still wanted to briefly mention, is that you also have these converbs or gerunds. They're used in so-called benefactive constructions when you are doing something for someone. A benefactor is somebody that profits from an action without being the object of an action, or even the indirect option. Like if I said I baked my sister a cake or so, then my sister in this sentence is the person who profits from the act of the cake being baked, but she was not an object in this clause. And in such case, again, following Turkic patterns, Mari likes to use the verb to give together with the converb. So I would say I baking gave my sister a cake. And if who the benefactor is clear from context, you don't even need to have the object expressed verbally. Like prototypical situation, there's a little kid is nagging, like kids are nagging their parents in a supermarket to get them something. Get me that chocolate bar, get me that chocolate bar. And the phrase would always be Schokoladen nalen pu, like chocolate buy and give. And it's like in German, I'd say just like kauf mir die Schokolade, in English, buy me the chocolate or whatnot. But in Mari, you can just say chocolate, buy and give, and you don't have to overtly express who the benefactor is, because if a little kid is nagging the parents in the supermarket, the context makes clear who the kid wants to be the benefactor in this action. Of course, the kid wants the chocolate for itself in this context. Okay, so
I have a little question. So, like I'm familiar with these like verb constructions that also happens in Indo-Aryan and Dravidian, but are these like something you find in Uralic languages as a whole, or is it like specific to Mari for Turkic influencers?
You find it only in those Uralic languages that have been under extensive contact influence by Turkic. And Mari is like one of two languages where it has the structures of these type have the strongest position. The other one is Kamas, an extinct Samoyedic language that was spoken in southern Siberia and was under intense contact by Turkic languages. And in fact, Kamas mostly went extinct because the speakers were assimilated by local Turkic communities, not by Russians. So Kamas has a strong position there. There is a monograph on this topic by Gerson Klump. And you can, to a lesser extent, find the same structures in southern varieties of Udmurt and in other Samoyedic languages, like in Selkup and in Nenets. but it is like the mainstream view is that it is very clearly a Turkic influence, There are some people, especially in the Hungarian scene, who deny this, but the evidence is not on their side. Yeah.
I have just one question, which is that does shunda here, like, does it make it a change of state?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'd have to check in my dissertation how many Aktionsarten I ended up distinguishing, but it was something like 9 or 10 different ones. And like, and it would be things like, for example, to come. Tolash is used to mark a gradual increase in something. It's like Viang Tolash, like Viang is to develop, to get stronger. And Viang Tolash is like developing come would be like to gradually grow in strength or something like this. Yeah. And often, I mean, we'll get back to this topic over and over again. But often you will have then cases where you're not entirely sure if you should do a lexical reading of a verb or more the grammaticalized reading. And sometimes there are cases where there's a bit of both. And Klaus Schönig, in his dissertation on the topic in Tatar, he had this wonderful phrase of it that it was in German, like, was it das? He called this das Durchschlagen der Vollverbbedeutung, I believe it was. It's like sort of the original meaning of the verb is kind of sort of breaking through in this auxiliary. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions about the converbs before we move on? Okay. So the converbs. If this was a bit intimidating now, this is a big topic that we're going to come back to over and over again. For now, it's just good to be aware that these things exist and to compensate for them when translating from Mari. Okay. So next point in the grammar is the so-called comparative case. I'm unhappy that we're stuck with this name, but it is what it is, because when people hear comparative, they think that it is the gradation. This is not what it is. This is more, I would have called it like equitative or something like that. And I believe that Turkic sources call it this. But so Mari has a case suffix, if we want to call it that, la, which just means, which has a range of usages. One we have already encountered, and that is that if we attach it to the name of a nationality, we get an adverb in connection with this nationality. Like Tatar is Tatar and Tatarla is in Tatar. The same works in Chuvash, interestingly, that if we have, I'm not going to try and pronounce it, but like Mari and then in Mari, the suffix does the same thing. Another function that it has in Chuvash is if we have like kunta tu here, and then we have kunta la, it weakens this spatial adverb, and it means towards here, in this direction or so. And this works in Mari too. If we have tushko here, tushka la is towards here, coming in this direction or whatnot. And then we have, like, if we have in Chuvash the word bird, kayak, or something like that, and in kayak la, it would be like a bird, like the airplane flies like a bird. Mari does kayak, bird, kayak la, like a bird. And if this is looking fairly similar, this is because this is the case suffix was just borrowed from Chuvash into Mari here. The Turkic tradition doesn't call this a case suffix necessarily, but I mean, a case is what you call a case. It's just a question of nomenclature. And in Uralic studies, we call this a case that we have here. So this is a fairly cool thing, that you have a case with all its myriad functions, just copied as a whole from one language to another. And this comparative la, this completes the picture. These are the cases that we have, and so it falls into the category with dative as regards arrangements of case suffixes and possessive suffixes, that both orderings go, but it is so unusual for you to have a combination of a possessive suffix and the case suffix here. Like, I mean, it does work. Like he looks like my father, or so would be like achamla koyesh, but it is still so unusual that like that even these like hypothetical combinations that we postulate, we don't find that many occurrences for it. Okay. Another topic that we have touched upon already in the past, but just to look at it a bit more systematically, adjectives that have short forms and long forms. Okay, so we have 3 houses here. I could ask Motide. I could say, Tide Yoshkar Pert. This is a red house. Tide Ujar Pert. This is a green house. Tide Osh Pert. This is a white house. But if I was now to ask, Tide Pert Mogai Tusan, like this house is of what color? Tus is color, and this is this derivation of suffix with blah blah blah. Like with which color is this house? And then the answer would say Tide Pert Yoshkarge Osho Ujarge. So for these three colors and some other ones, you have distinct forms depending on if you are using it as an attribute that modifies a superordinate noun, or if you're using it as in a predicative. And you use the short form if it is a modifier and the long form otherwise. And this is similar to how the numerals, the short forms and the long forms of the numerals works. And another case where you need the long forms is if you are using if you're via conversion turning these nouns in these adjectives into nouns. Like if we're looking at the Russian Civil War, and we'd have the Red Armies or just the Reds, these would be the Yoshkarge Vlak. And their opponents in the Russian Civil War, the Whites or the Osho Vlak, and not connected with these two. If we have a political party that takes green as its color and they describe themselves as the Greens, these are then the Ujarge Vlak. So here we just have to remember this, that you have short forms and you have long forms. Samo says, I wonder if Osh is an old Scythian loan. I'll look into this, and if I can, and see if Samsa Holopine has something to say on the topic. I'm trying to remember if Asia has this form too, but I'm not sure. I know Morvin Aksha. Yeah, I'll have a look at it. Remind me at a later time, and I'll have a look at it then. Okay, so this is primarily color terms that have this distinction: Yoshkar, Yoshkarge, Osho, Sandal, Sandalge for rosy and pink. This word is not part of my, doesn't sound like core vocabulary, but pastel colors are very popular in Russia. And at Mari State University in the Mensa, there's like the dining room that the guests always are in has pastel pink walls. And everyone that participated events in Yoshkaola knows this room as the Sandal Pulem, the pink room. So it's always you go to the Sandal Pulem for their various events. Okay, Ujarge green, Sheme black. So it's primarily these color terms, and then we have a few, very, very few other adjectives where you have the same distinction, like koshar, kosharge, pointed, sharp, and nijal, nijalge, tender, gentle. Okay. Coming back to the comparison of adjectives and adverbs. This is something that will seem very familiar if you know Mordvin languages. And that is, so if you make a comparison in Mari, and you're saying X is more Y than Z, like lum kagastech osho rak, snow is whiter than paper. If you have the base of the comparison denoted here with kagazdech from paper, you no longer need the rak to mark the comparison. Just saying snow is white from paper is enough. And because this rak suffix in Mari is a fairly new borrowing from Turkic languages, and the original Uralic way of doing this, which you still have in the Mordvin languages, is that you just have a spatial connection with the object of comparison. Yeah, so Yul Enger, the river Volga, Elnet Enger, Dech Kelge is deeper than the Elnet or Ilet river. Okay, yeah, this just to remember that if you have something Dech as a comparison, you no longer need the comparative suffix. Good. Superlative degree in Mari is very easy, especially if you know Turkic languages. That for the superlative, you just take the positive form and you have a particle en preceding it. So poro, pororak, en poro, good, better, best. Easy, easy rak, en easy. Shoksho, shoksharak, en shoksho. Yeah, this is in Tatar, in modern Tatar, this is ing, for example. If you add ak, does the dech drop out? Well, this depends. If you have the rak there, you can drop the dech part off, but it's just a question of if you want to mark the object of comparison. If you want to just say the snow is whiter or so, you could say lum osharak, but then the question remains whiter than what? And for that, you need the dech phrase. Okay, that's it for grammar for now. And let's look at, does anybody have any questions about the grammar still before we proceed to the word usage and then to the text? Okay, so we've had the word idalыk and e, both in reference to a year. And just to keep these two apart, what they are, idalыk is more like the expression to the year as like an abstract concept of a time of that consists of 4 seasons, yada yada yada. Whereas e would more be a reference to one specific year in like in the flow of time. So if you're referring to a specific year in which something happened, you use e. But if you're talking about the year in an abstract concept, you would use idalыk. Okay, the second point is pretty trivial, I would say. Kече, tılze, sun and moon, these also mean day and month. So the day is the time that, like, from one sunrise to the next, that's Sunday, same thing. And month is a moon. I mean, in English, you can see that they are etymologically connected too, but they're not the same thing. In Mari, they are the same thing. The next 3 points are just pertaining to verbs that are the same in the infinitive, but that are not the same verb, that come from the distinct verbal stems. So we've had шинчаш, шинчам, to sit down, and we have шинчаш, шинчем, to sit, non-transformative there here. You have to just make sure that you keep these two straight from and manage to keep them apart from each other. Like I tell you, shich, to sit down, first conjugation, you're saying I'm already sitting. Say uje shinchem, second conjugation. This is a case where the two verbs, they are obviously etymologically connected. Just the relationship is not transparent from a contemporary perspective. And then some of the other ones we're looking at, they're not then etymologically connected. Like shulash, shulam, first conjugation is to cut, to slice, and shulash, shulem, second conjugation is to melt. Like we had this with Kingdom Shul, when Yelu was telling Echan to cut the bread. But if I say the snow isn't melting, it's lum ok shulo. Just have to keep them apart. And here are two that are the same conjugation class. Pay attention to that. Pуаш, puem, to give, pуаш, puem, to blow. So if I say avat lan mon puet, what are you giving your mother? But madesh pua, the wind blows. Okay, so we've already encountered the word molan, meaning why, both for what reason and for what purpose. It works in both senses, like molan ototol, why aren't you coming? what this originally is the interrogative pronoun mo, what, with the dative ending. And we'll encounter it in that sense too at some point. Sometimes, especially in colloquial language, this works in English too, you sometimes just use the word what when you're asking for an explanation. Mo peshuko malen kieda. Why do you lie around and sleep so much? I mean, in English, I could also say, what are you lying around doing nothing for, or something like that. Yeah. Okay. Small note. This is a general Russian phenomenon. What we're going to see now. Urem, street. We will often encounter the form uremishte, like in the street. And if you have like nunu uremishte modet, they are playing in the street. For coming from a European perspective, you would imagine that there is maybe like a street with not many cars and the children are playing on the street. But that is not necessarily always the case, because uremishte, in the street, just means outside often enough. And it is not necessary if I just say the kids are outside and I say uremishte, I don't mean to say that they're literally on the street and playing where the cars might be driving. They could also be off in the field or whatnot. This is just a general Russian metaphor for outside. Okay, that's it for words and words usage and the grammar and all that. Any other questions before we get to the text? If not, give me a moment to make sure that the audio is working.
идалык жап.
Could you hear that?
Yep.
Great. So, idalыk жап, time of the year, or times of the year, it's going to end up. And let's do it as best possible, sentence at a time, unless it at some point it gets very, very short.
Таче Ануш юча садыш кая.
Gopal.
So today Anush is going to the kindergarten.
Next is going to be Sonia.
Воспитатель Ануш дене идалык жап нерген кутыра.
Yeah, Sonia.
I think it's the teacher in the kindergarten speaks with Anush about the seasons.
Yeah, and then it's going to be Valentina.
Ануш, идалыкышты мыняр идалык жап?
Yeah.
So, Anush, how many seasons are there in a year?
Okay. Now, Kevin gets something that can be answered on basis of general knowledge.
Нелад, тиле, шоша, кенеш, шажа.
Yeah.
All right. Nilit, tela, shosho, kinej, shija.
Yeah.
There are 4: winter, spring, summer, autumn.
Yeah. And then it's going to be Sandra.
Тый могай идалык жапым эн чот йӧратет?
Тиле.
Yeah, which season do you like best?
And the answer maybe still?
Winter.
Winter. Yep.
Тыланет теле молан келша?
Then Luan.
Why do you like winter?
Okay, now comes the monster line, but let's split this one up. I'll play a bit, and then Samo can translate everything up to that bit.
Телом лум лумеш, мланде, ош мамок ты шакла коеш.
Okay, Samo.
Thalem lum lumesh. So that's in the winter, snow falls.
Yep.
Mlande orsh mama durshakla koesh. Is it like On the earth, white, what's mamak?
Down feathers.
Feathers?
Mhm.
Okay. Mlande osh mamak dershaklakoish. I'm not really sure what dershakla is either.
Okay, so this is a tricky one. So mlande is just the land, and then the verb is koyesh, it looks like. And everything else is all the rest is just one noun phrase, what the land looks like. And it looks like an osh mamak to shak la. So the la is just a comparative, what it looks like. Osh mamak to shak is in the question what that is. Osh is
white.
White. Mamak is like down feathers. And tishak, I'm not even sure what it's translated like in the textbook. It's like a feather bed or so.
It looks like a bed of white feathers.
Exactly. That's
okay.
what it ends up being. Okay. Then Sophos gets the next bit.
Eshe tēlam izder daiechi denam chaltash liesh. Tēlam mai ui pairemam juratem.
Okay. Sophos?
And in winter, it is possible to go skiing or riding on a sled. And I love the New Year's Day celebration in winter.
Yep. And just a note here, in Russia, New Year's Day is the big thing in winter. It's much more important than Christmas. In Soviet days, like so many of the Christmas festivities were transferred to the New Year's Day. And that remains so today that, Pairem, it is Bayram. That's where it comes from. It's just a Mari, the more generic feast word, but it is Turkic. Yep.
Justa kuguzatulish, pileikam konda.
Rika?
So what do I do with Justa kuguza? Ded Moroz practically, no?
Yeah.
He comes and brings presents.
Yeah. So Justa kuguza literally is like the cold uncle. It's the Russian Santa Claus equivalent, basically. And then Gopa, the next two ones.
Telepochish motolesh?
Kenesh.
So after winter goes, what comes? This would be autumn.
No, Kingesh is Kingesh is summer. So the translation, the first one, it was basically right, but just to know, puchesh is a postposition after. So, and after winter, what comes? So what comes after winter? And what this puchesh what literally is poch is tail, and ish is the lative. So into the tail. What comes into the tail of winter? And Anush says summer. And Sonia gets then the kindergarten teacher's reply to that.
Jongeleslied, vetele dechvara shoshodolesh.
Yep.
Jongeleslied, vetele dechvara shoshodolesh. You are wrong. After winter, there comes spring.
Exactly. Yeah. And Jongelish is one of my favorite Mari words. And it's noun, adjective, adverb versus everything. It's a mistake, it's wrong, and it is incorrectly. Can be used in all functions. And it sounds so nice. Jongelish. Okay, and then Valentina will get the next one.
Chinak. Unchit shoshutulish, avara kenesh.
So that's right. First comes spring and then summer.
Yep. And then Kelvin will get a bit of the next one.
A shosher kenesh dech more no ertemaltish.
Oh, just that. That's enough. Kelvin?
A shosher kenesh dech more than oirtemaltish. And how is spring different from summer?
Exactly. So it's like in what does it set itself apart, sort of, is what it literally is. Okay, then Sandra gets the first two sentences of the next big chunk.
Шошым лум шула. Шошо кече тулшола йошкарген лектеш.
Okay.
In spring, the snow melts.
Yeah.
And the spring sun shines red like a hot coal.
That's exactly right. Yeah. My experience is it's the shosho keche that you have to sometimes students will trip on that the shosho is used as a modifier here, like the spring sun. Okay, then Luan gets the next sentence.
Шокшо элгыч кайык-влак чоҥештен толыт.
Yeah.
The birds come flying from warm land.
Yeah, and this is the one case where the Turkic type verbalization of motion events works in English too. They come flying. We don't do it with any of the other basic verbs of motion, but we do it with this one. Okay, then.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So is Shoksha El, is that actually a warm place, or does it mean south?
That's a good question. It means it's like hot countries, literally. And I mean, it's not what you're going to find in the dictionary for south. The dictionary term for south is kече valvel, the midday side. But it would not surprise me if this would be used as just the south in an abstract sense too. Okay. So then Samo will get the next one.
Пушеҥге-влак ужаргат, а кеҥежым игече шокшырак.
The next two then, yeah.
Okay. Пушеҥге-влак ужаргат, so the trees greenify, I guess trees bloom, yeah.
Yeah.
А кеҥежым игече шокшырак, and in the summer the weather is hotter.
Yep, that is exactly right. Then Sophus gets the rest.
Кеҥежым чодраште тӱрлӧ саска шочеш.
Yep.
In the summer, let's see. In the summer, various fruits grow in the forest.
Yeah, that is correct. That like shochesh, it's also to be born, but with fruit. Yeah, it's just growing. Then Reka gets the next line.
Anush, ашыжын нерген мом каласен кертат?
Okay, Anush, and what can you say about the autumn?
Mm-hmm. And then Gopal and Sonia get one sentence each still.
Шыжым кече шагал ырыкта.
Yeah.
Шыжым кече шагал ырыкта. Шыжым
Autumn. Wait, Gopal, are you still here or have we lost you?
Yeah, sorry. In the autumn, the days are oh, sorry. I'm losing my connection. I don't remember what erecta is.
To warm. But this is now a transitive form, actually a causative form. It's the same suffix that we have in tuniktash, to teach, but here in the productive, in a productive case, that urash is to become warm, and urektash is to warm something, to make something warm. And so, and shagal is little, also few. There's no distinction here. So in autumn, warms little, but here you have to. What is kече? What would a better translation for it be here now?
Right, sun. So in the
Exactly.
autumn, the sun warms like the lands a little.
Yeah, the sun gives little warmth is what she's saying basically. Yeah, and then the last one for Sonia.
Csücsködön jűr-jüres, már dés-pua, kályek-vlak sokse véles csönyistén káját.
Okay.
Чекчеден юриреш, мардешпua, kayak vlak shukshuvelish, chungestishkaya. It often rains, the wind blows, and the birds return or fly away to warm countries or warm places.
Exactly. Okay, that's it. Any questions pertaining to the text or any of the grammar that we encountered in it?
Yeah, so is puchesh equivalent to dechvara, or is it a bit different?
It has a larger stress on the sort of the sequentiality, that X happens and then Y happens right afterwards. And whereas dechvara could also can be less immediately sequential. That like we had here, what was that? Tele, yeah, okay, but here we have tele dechvara shosho tolesh. Okay, yeah. So in this case, pochesh would have worked too, in my opinion. Yeah. Yeah, it's, I mean, like the usual kind of thing where you can find like sort of this tendential differentiations between it, but you are going to find cases where both work and both are used. Okay, anything else? If not, then I would I would continue to the exercises. Yeah. Okay. So in the first exercise, the task is just to create the converbs, and we're not yet worrying about the various aspects of meaning. So the task is always read the infinitive, translate if you can. If you can't, I'll add the translation and form the converb or gerund of it. And we'll start with Valentina.
So ludash, to read, luden.
And Kevin?
Kodash, Gordon. And is that stay?
That is stay. And now Sandra gets the transitive counterpart here. You get the translation here. It's like leaving something behind.
Kodash, Koden.
Exactly. And then Luan?
Kuderash, to speak, kuderen.
Yeah. Samo?
Korstash, and then korsten.
Yeah. Yeah, and that means to go.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Sophus?
Uyash, goyen. And I'm not sure what that means.
To look like, to appear.
Similar. Okay, good.
Yeah. Reka?
Tolash is to come, tollen.
And Gopal?
Tunemash, to teach. Tunema.
It's to learn.
I'm sorry?
It's not to teach, to learn, to study.
Right, yeah. Yeah, Tuneman.
Tunemen, and here, as Luan pointed out, there is also the short form tunem, but tunemen is absolutely correct. Yeah, then Sonia?
Kayash, to go, kayan.
Cayenne, Then Valentina?
Yuratash, to love, yuraten.
Yep. Then Kelvin?
All right, kanaltash, kanalten.
No, this is tricky.
Kanalten?
Kanalten, yeah. It's to relax. And this is tricky because we have alt as the reflexive, which makes then first conjugation verbs like yam dalaltash, to prepare oneself. But you also have alt as a momentary derivational suffix to do a little bit of something. And there it creates then second conjugation verbs. So just by looking at the infinitive, you can't know which one it is. Yep, Sandra?
Jam de las, to prepare.
Yeah.
Transitive.
Yeah.
Jam de lim.
Jam de lim.
Jam de lim. Jam de lim.
Jam de leen, second conjugation.
Okay.
And this is, I can't get it to look nice or whatever. This is a case where with practice, one can know the conjugation class at some point because this L here is a derivational suffix. It's like yamde, ready. Yamdelash is to make something ready. And all verbs created with this particular derivational suffix are then second conjugation verbs.
But didn't you just say that that jam de laltas would, like with the alt, would be the second conjugation?
No, that would be first conjugation. And yam de laltash is like to prepare oneself. But it's okay. Maybe we should we can do a like bit of an overview of this. So if we have yamde ready as our basis, and we derive from this then a verb yam de le to prepare something, i.e. to make something ready, that would then have the infinitive yam de lash, but it would be second conjugation. Because this suffix, this L, always creates verbs of the second conjugation. And if we now do a reflexive derivation of that, to get oneself ready, to prepare oneself, that's then yam de lalt. Infinitive yam de laltash. This is first conjugation because this alt always creates verbs of the first conjugation. And I mean, this can be a bit tricky then that we had first the L, that always creates verbs of the second conjugation, and this alt always creates verbs of the first conjugation. It's the last suffix that came to the stem that counts as regards the conjugation class of the resulting verb. Does that make any sense?
I must have gotten it the wrong way around when you explained it before Kavaltas.
Yeah, it could be that I mixed things up there too. But let's another example, like where we see the derivational suffixes influencing the conjugation classes. If we have a stem muro, a verbal stem to sing. This is second conjugation and has the infinitive form then murash. That could be muralt, be sung, muraltash, first conjugation. But there is also muralte, think a little, which has in the same infinitive form. It belongs to the second conjugation. Because there are two distinct derivational suffixes alt. One of them is the reflexive one that creates verbs of the first conjugation, and that would be then to be sung or so, or like in this case, it would be passive. But then we also have the momentary derivation suffix to do something for a little while, which does not change the argument structure in any way. So there's no valency decrease or anything like that. But that then creates verbs of the second conjugation. And yeah, this is then tricky. This is what Calvin tripped over because it is. it's annoying that you have two alts and one always does first conjugation and one always does second conjugation, and you have to know which one it is to know which conjugation class it is. Yeah. I hope this detour didn't cause more confusion than it cleared up.
Is there like a list of suffixes which do this?
Yeah, yes, in the learner's grammar.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, then Luan gets ishtash.
Ishtash is to do and ishtan.
Then Samo gets vozash. Here the conjugation is class is indicate because we have two verbs, vozash. There's vozash, vozam, to fall somewhere, and vozash, vozem is
to write.
Exactly. And then the
vozen.
Vozen, exactly. Yeah, and Luan has the right answer. Good way to remember which is to listen to all the Muraltena, Kushtaltena songs. And there's also some with Muralte, Tangem, something. So like this Muralte, this conjugation is very popular in this particular case. Okay, then Sophus, Kenyalash.
Kenyalash, that means to get up.
Yeah.
And it's Kenyelen.
Yeah.
In the converb form.
Yeah. Then Reka.
Kochkash. Kochkan.
Yeah.
But I forgot what it was.
To eat.
Okay.
Gopal.
Fuchin, to sit.
No, to wait.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's confusing because we had all these sitting and waiting examples. Yeah. Sonia.
Puash, to give. Buen.
Yeah. Then Valentina.
Ujash, to invite. Ujin.
Then Kelvin.
Mushkash, Mushkin.
No.
Oh, it's Mushkin then.
Mushkin, yeah.
That's
this
to wash, I believe, right?
Yeah, to wash. Because this we had as one of the examples of consonant cluster simplification. Mush, the imperative to wash. And that only happens in the first conjugation. Okay, Sandra.
Шинчаш, shinchan, to sit down.
Yeah. And then Luan.
Shinchash, to sit, and shinchan.
Yep. Then Samo.
Malash, to sleep, and this is malin.
Yeah. Sophus.
Maltash, that means to differ from, and it's malten.
Yeah. Rika.
Ilash. Ilen. Is it to live?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then Gopal.
Younger tash, that's to call, right?
Yeah.
So younger tin.
Yeah. And I can tell that the vocabulary that's prominently featured in songs, people don't get wrong. Sonia.
Ujargash, and it's to get green, to turn green. Ujargen.
Yep. And Valentina.
Petarash, I forgot the meaning.
To complete something.
To complete. Pitaren.
Yeah. I think I saw some recognition in Rika's eyes, but with this word. Yep. Okay. So now we just want to practice the to be able to do XYZ thing. Like if you have kalasash to speak, kalasam, kalasten, kertash to be able to speak. And I think it was Kelvin's turn.
Okay, Bolshash, Bolshin Kertash. To be able to help.
Yep. And yeah, again, things are staying Turkic. Sandra?
Yemdelash to prepare something. Yemdelain katash.
Yep.
Able to prepare.
Then Luan?
Pitarash to finish. Pitaren katash to be able to finish.
Yeah. Then Samo?
Tolash to come, and Dolan Kirtash to be able to come.
Okay. Then Sophus?
Uchash to wait. Uchin Kirtash to be able to wait.
Yeah. Rika?
Nalan. We had it, but I forgot it.
Nalash is to take.
Yeah, so Nalan Kertash to be able to take.
Nalan Kertash. Yep. And then Gopal?
Kanal Tim to rest. Sorry, Kanal Tash to rest, and Kanal Tin Kertash to be able to rest.
Yeah. And the last sentence we put in there in to honor Timothy Riese, my doctoral supervisor, and Sonia gets to do it.
Ce l'avere Malen Kertash to be able to sleep everywhere.
Yes, exactly. And that is a talent he has, which we really noticed in Russia when we were traveling around Mariel with the tiny little bus. Everybody is holding on for the dear life as we're shaking around, and we look at him and he's just sleeping. And
lucky him.
He can do that. So it's a special skill of his. Okay. Yeah. So okay, usually I skip these exercises to fill in the gaps, but this one I think is useful also just to learn the translations. So maybe let's do this one. Valentina?
Min shincham cherle, I would say me luden omkert.
Yeah. And can you translate them?
So my eyes hurt. I can't read. Shouldn't read.
Yep. Then Kelvin?
Zi vodar chila bukvam pala tudo oh, this is
Well, maybe let's do the first half and then we can see, then the rest is easier. So what does it mean?
so Vadir is the thing I'm getting hung up on primarily.
Okay, yeah, it's the Mari version of Fyodor.
Oh, so little Fyodor knows every letter.
Yeah.
So it's going to be Ludash then probably.
Yep.
Tudo Ludenkertesh.
Yep. Yep. Okay, then Sandra.
Meitiri Pasham Ishten Omkert Kirem Korsta.
Yeah.
I cannot work.
Yeah, I cannot do this work.
I cannot. Okay, I cannot do this work. My hand hurts, or my arm, whatever.
Yep. Yep. Luan.
Nuno tendam polshen ogetkat shapestuke. They can't help them. No, wait, they can't help you. They have no time.
Correct. Then Samo.
Memnan pashana peshuko. Pemalana. So let me think. Memnan pashana peshuko. So our work. Peshuko.
I just noticed now that the best one that the best fit here has already been used, but we can use it again. But okay, what does the first thing mean? Memnan pashana peshuko.
Our work, I'm guessing, is difficult, but
no, shuko just means much, a lot, and pesh is like very. So our work is very much means we have a lot of work.
We have a lot of work. Okay. Te malana. Te malana. So te malana is like you.
Yeah.
And then which would it be like bolshash? You can help us.
Yes.
Are you able to help us?
Yeah, but inflected correctly, still, please.
Bolshen.
Polshen. Yeah.
Bolshen.
Te malana polshen kertada. Can you help us? Yeah. Then Sofu's the last one.
Uden pyje koshta. Coach can ook kert. His teeth hurt. He can't eat.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to skip over exercise 4 because there are a lot of exercises in this chapter, and we can only do a selection of them. But this is now learning how to tell people to get lost in Mari when they're asking you to do things, and you say, "No, I can't." No, she can't either. He can't either. Neither can they, etc., etc. Okay, but yeah, let's do this one where it is just a question and negative answer, and I'll do the first one maybe. Te kechavalum malen kertada. Can you sleep at noon? Uke kechavalum malen ogana kert. No, we cannot sleep at noon. Reka.
Okay, let's see if I can do this. Tøy meyim kasmarte vuchen kertat. Can you wait for me, kasmarte? I don't know.
Till the evening.
Till the evening. Okay. My vuchen kert.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Uke tuyim kasmarte vuchen omkert if we want to have the whole thing, but that was fine. Then Gopal.
Tøy melanim Mari yelmum tunokten kertat. So can you teach us the Mari language?
Can you teach me the Mari language?
Yeah,
Melanim.
me, right. Right, yeah. So my talanit Mari yelmum tunokten omkert.
Yep, exactly. Okay, Sonia.
Tire chela kayak chongesh den kertesh. This sick bird can fly. Oke tire chela kayak chongesh den ok kert.
Yep. Then Valentina.
Tace castene melanem inger den kertat. So this evening, can you? I forgot this verbs meaning ingertash.
I think you need to listen to SMS Salam a few more times.
Call.
Yes.
Is it call?
Yes.
Okay. So can you call me in the this evening?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Tace castene ingerten omkert.
Exactly. Okay, then Kelvin.
Echan Rosharnyan Teatrish Kayen Kartesh. Can Echan go to the theater on Sunday? Uke Echan Rosharnyan Teatrish Kayen Okkert.
Yep. Then Sandra.
Тире предложением руш ямаш кусарен кетат. Окей. Тире предложением руш ямаш курисен омket.
Yeah. And what does it mean, sir?
Can you translate this sentence into Russian?
Yep, exactly.
Actually, no.
No, I cannot. Okay, I think I'll skip number 6 and number 7. It's just forming these pairings that should be translated. But let's do number 8. Starting, we're just reading and translating. Starting with Luan.
Tide eerste tudo universitetem tunem otpetare in this year they will not finish studying at the university or something.
Yep. Then Samo.
Monte Usteda Kochkan Shinchina. What are you doing? Sitting and eating.
Yep. Then Sophus.
What are you doing here? I am sitting here waiting for you.
Yep. Then Reka.
Mopes shukomalen kieda. Kisa kuneza. Sorry, I can't see my screen right now. And I'm completely blackout right now.
Okay,
so,
do you want to skip?
Can you have him?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
maybe.
no, okay.
Thanks.
So, Kia is to lie, like German liegen. And this is a mo what, which we had can also be used like as why. So why are you lying? And then the rest, how are they lying? Now, this would probably be a parent talking to the children. Malen kieda would be so sleeping, lying. So lying around sleeping, kind of. And peshuko is just very much. Why?
So why are you lying around so much and sleeping?
Yeah, and Kenielza?
Yeah. Okay, then probably get up or something.
Get up, exactly.
Yes.
Okay, Gopal?
Easy either Avajan Kidashtaja Malin Shincha. So the little girl is sleeping, like sleeping in her mother's hand.
Yeah. And we asked our native colleagues how they would actually envision this, and they'd say maybe like a 3-year-old girl is sitting on the mother's lap, and the mother has the hands around it, and the child is sleeping. Okay, Sonia.
Met dem uren omtal. I'm wondering how to translate it.
This one is tricky.
It's like I'm not going to invite him, her.
Yeah. So literally, this would be I'm not going to inviting him, but this doesn't make any sense, of course. But then it's just Uschen Tolash to invite. The Tolash has some Aktionsart value here that is somewhat sticky. It's hard to put your finger on it exactly. And you basically just have to ignore it in the translation. Yeah. Okay, number 9, we're going to skip over this one, but for those that want to practice, this just practicing to get used to how much Mari does not like to have 2 finite verbs in a sentence, but rather wants to have, rather than cook, for your sister cook milk and give it to her to drink, rather than saying this with two finite verbs, you would say, rather say, Shuja retlan shörem sholten yukte, like cooking her milk, give it to her to drink or so. So you can practice this to get used to this, the propensity that Mari has for monofinite constructions where you only have one finite verb and everything else is converbs or something else. Yeah, and here are some more translated into English where we have some more functions of the converb. Again, just practice if you are still if it's feeling a bit tricky. And okay. The comparative, the formation is actually pretty easy. It's just like the dative, just with one N less. So like the son would be kechala, like the young boy, rvezala, easy uderla, mardeshla, like the wind, like the little girl, izila, like when little, cherlala, like when sick. Yeah, so one N less than dative, and remember not to stress it, that it is unstressed, uncharacteristically, because usually A in the final position is stressed. But let's try this one, these here, these sentences, just to translate them into. Reka's asking, do they do longer chains of converbs too? Yes, they do. I've wanted to try in the corpus what the longest string of converbs is that I can find, but in the sources you can find some with 6 in a row or so without any problem. But then usually it is just combining the various different usages of it. Yeah. Okay. One moment. Yeah. Do we sometimes forget the finite verb too? This happens less in Mari than it does in Udmurt. This is very common in Udmurt, but in Mari, it's not actually that common. Because I know the Turkic languages like to do this, but the thing that you have in Mari is that if you forget the finite verb and you just have the converb, it becomes homonymous with the indicative past tense, with the past tense form that we're going to meet in a few chapters. So it's kind of blocked this specific function. It looks like something. Okay, starting with Valentina, let's read these sentences here.
Okay. Me roshla nemchela marla shuko lodena. So we read a lot in Russian, German, and Mari.
Yep. Then Kelvin.
I speak a little bit of Hungarian.
Yep. Then Sandra.
Tire is uder kugiyengla pashamishta. This little girl works like an adult.
Yep. This does not sound entirely legal to me, but okay. Luan.
Ergem mo isi yochala shotat son, why do you cry like a little child?
Oh boy, yes, that is what it says. Okay. Okay, this one just it's a bit silly, but it's fun. So where you get these words and you should form a sentence of it. But I'm going to now give you all. I'm going to say who gets sentences, and you get like 2 minutes. 2 minutes to try to form a meaningful sentence with them. Oh, this one goes to Samo. This one goes to Sophus. Number 3 goes to Reka. And number 4 goes to Gopal. Yep, and 2 minutes. Okay, have you got something?
I think.
Okay. I think in some cases there are several legitimate options, but let's see if you got one.
Kayak, gagaz samolyot la, Jongestash is
to fly.
So Gayan Chongestana.
Other way around, that you in the pairings you always first have in a converb the way in which the mode of transfer, like chongesten, flying, and then
Gayana.
I just say kaya because it's third person.
Okay.
So it was kayak, kagas samolyotla, chongesten kaya, which would then mean?
So a bird, like a paper plane, is flying away. Is flying.
Exactly. Yeah. You could, of course, do it the other way around too, that the paper plane flies off like a bird, but I'll take it. Sophus?
Myen Shulyem Mardishla Erten Kaya.
Yeah.
So my little brother goes passing by, something like that, like the wind.
Yep, that's correct. Reka?
Okay. Telim, blande, mamik de shakle, koyesh. In winter, the earth looks like a feather bed.
Yep. And then Gopal?
So Shosham. Oh, sorry, I was muted.
Okay.
Shosham, kече, tusholla, yushkargen liktish.
Yeah.
So in the this was spring, I think. In the spring, the sun becomes red like hot coal.
Yeah. Though in this case, this is like, okay, so sometimes with these converb constructions, I'm also not sure how to translate it. I would have probably read it as Yoshka gen lektish, that it rises red. Because lektash, to leave, also means to rise for the sun. There's a song that we're going to meet, kече lektish on chalesh. The sun comes up and shines. So it's like, I think it rises redly, like it's red in the morning when it rises. But
so does lektash not have a more regular light verb meaning?
It does. It also does. So it is tricky.
Okay.
Okay. So the next one is just to recap all the cases that we have met. Everyone, we want to. One moment. One case is actually missing here, scandalous, but almost all the cases are to be used here. And then the bonus question at the end would be which case was missing. Okay, Sonia, the first one. And translate, please.
We live in Yushkarola.
Yep, Valentina. I can't hear Valentina right now. Okay, then let's go on to Kelvin.
Okay, Wörter Skoliskaya.
Okay. Kelvin keeps being stuck with Wörter today.
Oh, you want me to translate it? Sorry.
Yeah.
So Wörter Fyodor goes to school.
Yeah. Valentina, I cannot hear you, so maybe you're muted. Okay, there must be some technical problem with Valentina right now. So Sandra, and with possessive suffix third person plural, then please.
Oh God. Iluden Sergei You're that.
Yeah.
Iluden Sergei loves their child.
Yep. Yeah. Then Luan.
Ivanov mit Jeschke ječe den Munchaldashkaya.
Yeah.
The Ivanovs go skiing with the whole family.
Yep. Then Samo.
Aista. Wait, divan. Oh, okay, the Persian divan. Shinchana. So divan te shinchana. So
if it is shinchana, to sit down, you'd have to have movement. What you said would be fine if it was shinchena. Divanish te shinchena. But let's sit down on the sofa would be.
Shivanish.
Divanish is possible, but what would be preferential would be with the lative. Divanish. Shinchana.
Okay.
I need to check this on the corpus still, like what the actual frequency distribution here is. But generally, like if you have a movement where you cannot really in a meaningful way say where the movement is coming from, like sitting down, the lative is the bed.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, let's go sit down on the couch.
Yep. Exactly. Sophus?
Mary akamla koyam. I resemble my elder sister.
Yep. And Reka, the last one.
Sasha Nuderje, Universitet işte Tunimiş. Sasha's daughter is studying at the university.
Yep. Okay, so which case were we missing here? Does anyone know? The dative and the nominative. Yep. Yep. Okay. Okay, let's do number 19 and yeah. Okay, Valentina, see you next week, same time. And I'll do a few more exercises and then we can call it a night. Let's do this still, where we have to see if we know when to use the long form, the short form, and the long form. And like pick the right forms and then translate, and starting with Gopal.
Shim palto malanim okilshe. Irukan paltoja shime. So I don't remember what shame is.
Black.
Okay, so the black overcoat. So I don't like the black coat.
Yeah.
Irukan. I'm guessing Iruk is the name.
Yeah.
So Iruk's coat is a black.
Yep. Then Sonia.
Dilemma lande osho lum landem oslum landem betera.
Yeah.
In winter, the land is white, and the white snow, let's say cover. Let me just check. Yeah, the white snow covers the land.
Yep. Then Kelvin.
All right. Yoshkar urem. Uremeste Yoshkar flaggoyesh. Rozan churije yoshkarge. So outside resembles a red flag.
Okay, so it's koyesh, it's resemble, but it also is like appear, be visible, to be seen, or whatnot.
Oh, okay, so outside there is a red flag.
That's basically what it is, yeah.
Rosa's face is red.
Yeah, and then Sandra, the last one.
Kengijim pushenge vlak ujar shogat und ujarge.
Other way around then.
Yeah, okay, I just figured. Kengijim pushenge vlak ujarge shogat. And ujar shudem pogen yam tılze. In summer, the trees stand green.
Yeah, I would have, to be honest, I would have here actually expected an adverbial form, ujargen, with this instructive n, which can be attached to adjective forms, but apparently ujarge works too. Yeah, and
I was actually confused because there was.
Yeah, no, it is not trivial at all. But then
and the green herbs.
Grass in this sense, I'd say.
Okay, the green grass. Isn't that collect or something?
Yes. Okay, this is one of these converb constructions.
Yeah, but I mean, it could collect. We get the green grass ready to be collected.
Collected and get it ready, basically.
Oh, okay.
So it's like pogen yamdalaza is like collecting, prepare it. So what does it mean? You should collect it in the different places and then prepare it by tying bands around it or whatever one does with grass when it's drying. Yeah. I think we should, since people are have to leave already, we should call it a night fairly soon. But just let's have a quick look at what is still missing. The exercises that we have not done, you can do them on your own and send them to me if you want them to be checked, or you can also just compare it with the exercise key. So yeah, comparative and superlative degree. That we have shoksho, hot. How do we say hot? Hotter, the hottest. Shoksho, shoksharak, and shoksho, and such. And here, forming comparative clauses. How do we say Ichan is larger than Anush? Remember that there are two ways of doing this, that you can have it with the comparative rak or without it. Yeah, and here is just flipping comparative sentences on the head, upside down. So if we say that winter is colder than summer, how do I say summer is hotter than winter, etc. Then, oh yeah, and then here you get to show off with your family members and the such, like my mother is good, mine is better, mine is the best, etc. Okay, and yeah, questions pertaining to the text. Just getting the adjectives right, getting the verbs right, especially ones where we have especially some converb constructions consisting of a converb and a superordinate verb, and yeah, some questions about the year, some more case suffixes, and yeah, conjunctions, postpositions. A lot of this is practicing stuff which has happened in earlier chapters again. Okay, if there is nothing else right now pertaining to the exercise, I'm going to stop the recording now.